Should you charge royalties for editorial work? Do you ever get bored with your style? I answer these questions and more in today's episode. Hey guys, happy Monday. I hope you're having a great start to your week. My name's Tom Froese, and this is the Making Friends vidcast. This is where I answer your questions about illustration. Often when I come here, I start off the vidcast with Chit Chat, so I'll just kind of talk about some of the things that I've been thinking about over the last week that I've been excited to share with you guys, or it's just something that's on my mind. And then partway down the video, that's when I start the actual answers to the questions. If you're here for the answers to the illustration questions and nothing else, you just want the straight goods, I always leave a link in the show notes that will let you jump to that time in the video. If you're on board with the Chit Chat, thanks for sticking around, and hope I share something that's of worth to you today. So this week, I actually don't have tons to share, or I should say I don't have a plan of what I'm going to say. I often come in and I know what I'm going to talk about. What I can say is the past week has been pretty hard on me emotionally, and not for any particular reason. I think as an artist, I go through the ups and downs of elation and feeling awesome about how things are going and being really inspired and excited about my work and feeling like everything's connected in a really great way. And then I go through times of desolation where I just feel like sometimes I feel like a fraud, or like my time's up. I'm getting older and there's too many young, good, talented illustrators filling in the gaps and taking work away, for instance. Sometimes it's just general insecurities that crop up from just who I am, and we all have things about us that we struggle with, and we our dark sides, and sometimes those things just crop up, and inevitably they affect our illustration career. It should be a professional thing, and we should be able to show up and set aside our personal lives, all the things that are bothering us on the personal side, and just show up to work and do the work. But unfortunately, it's not so easy. And for some people, it's even harder to shake off what's happening inside when you're at work than for others. And I'm very much of that kind of, I'm that kind of person. I wear my heart on my sleeve. What's happening inside will quickly just overtake anything that's happening on the outside. And I obsess about it. I have to work it out. And I think one thing about me is that when there's a problem that I perceive as something I need to address or fix right away, I will obsess on that problem and try and fix it right away. It's a bit of an impatience thing, but it's probably also what makes me tick as an illustrator, as an artist, as a designer. I see a problem and I obsess with it until I can fix it, until I come up with a satisfactory solution. And so what is the problem? I guess that's the question that's kind of emerging from all this chit chat here. So what kind of problem am I fixated on right now? Well, it's kind of hard to describe, but this is the way I've been able to kind of word it with myself. So I'm 37. In July, I'm going to be turning 38. And I've always felt like, I'm not going to let age I'm not going to let age scare me. I just want to age gracefully and be who I am at the age I'm at, and not try and fight it, not try and be, younger than I am, or I'm not going to rush myself into being older than I am. I'm just going to be comfortable in my own skin and do the work. Do illustration work. Don't worry about if they're younger people doing better work. I just can only do what I can do at the, there's no stopping how old you are. But the way I'm feeling right now kind of reminds me of when I was 27. So this was 10 years ago. And it's funny that it was 10 years ago. It might be just a coincidence. But when I was 27, I was a bit of a late bloomer in terms of my art education and figuring out what I wanted to do with my life. So I was in my second or third year of art school, 27. Most of my fellow students and friends at university were, early 20s. And so I was feeling my age even then. And I was also feeling the strain of being in student debt and not having a proper job. I had a good career job that I threw away or set aside to go to art school, and I have no regrets about that. And I didn't have any regrets about that even as a student, but I was feeling the weight of that decision at 27. I realized as I was sleeping in my basement bedroom, in a rented house in Halifax, kind of like, I'm thousands of miles away from my family, all my good friends back home. I just felt far away, and I just realized for the first time in a very palpable way, in a way that like caused me a lot of anxiety, which meant for me that I was finally grasping what was happening. That I was grasping the situation. The situation was I was on my own. My parents wouldn't always be around for me. I was responsible to take care of myself, to get a job, and to make all the things that need to happen in life happen, if I wanted them to happen. For everyone that's different. For me, I wanted eventually to meet the perfect woman, and who at 27 I hadn't yet, and a lot of my friends had already been married, and I wanted to have a family and have a house and a cool job and all these things. I mean, pick whatever it is that for whatever reason you've decided is the most important thing to have in life. And for me it was finding love, finding satisfaction in life, in terms of having a family and a good career and all that kind of stuff. So I was feeling very much like time was ticking. I was going to be 30 soon. Where was this going? I didn't know whether the whole art school thing would, like, there's no guarantees that it was going to work out in the way that I'd hoped. And sort of an interesting aside, very shortly after that, my dad ended up dying of cancer. And I kind of feel like that feeling, specifically that my parents wouldn't always be there for me and I couldn't always rely on them. I feel like aside from just this being a growth stage for me and a transition in my life where it was like a new chapter or I becoming more independent, I also feel like this was actually a gift in that I my heart was being prepared to lose someone that I not only emotionally couldn't depend on anymore, but physically. My dad was not going to be around much longer. So that's just an interesting aside. I think that was a special grace in a way. So sometimes when you're feeling anxious, that anxiety might be a gift because it's preparing you for something, and that's certainly the case in my story here. And then another aside is that when I feel anxiety, I try to listen to it. I don't want to dwell in it, and I certainly don't want it to cast a dark cloud over my life and by extension other people around me's lives. But the feelings we get, especially the negative feelings, are teachers, and I've, for whatever reason, that's just always been my inclination, is to say, okay, something about me is wrong, and this is an indication. These feelings, these negative feelings, this anxiety is an indication that something's wrong. And the first thing I normally do is I start writing the list of the things that are actually eating at me, and that starts giving me some actual problems to work through. And so where am I get going with this? Right. So 27, new chapter in life, feeling the anxiety. Fast forward a few years, I graduate, I get a design job in across the country in Vancouver, and I meet the girl of my dreams, and we have a family, and now I'm an illustrator. So things worked out. But here I am at 38, 30, almost 38, and I'm feeling that feeling again, just that feeling like things are changing. It's out of my hands. I can't change the fact that I'm getting older. I can't do anything about the way the world is changing faster than I can keep up with. And I'm getting anxious about that. I'm getting anxious about, am I going to, I think this is a very common thing for artists, illustrators, designers to feel. I think for anyone in our culture, as I get older, will I lose relevance? Am I becoming irrelevant? And I think that fear is real because our society values youth so much. And it basically disposes of its elderly. We throw people who are not useful to us in seniors' homes and let other people take care of them so they're not a burden to us. And none of us want to get to that point, that ultimate stage where it seems like nothing but we're suffering, the people who are trying to care for us are suffering, we're just a burden. And that ultimate existential fate we all have of getting older and losing relevance is a very scary thing when you think about it. But I mean, who can dwell on that and not be paralyzed? So let's not dwell on that. That's not the point of what I'm saying. But I'm saying, 2 years until 40. 40 is old. And it's young for some. It's young if you're 60, but it's old if you're 20. And as an illustrator, the people I interact with kind of span the ages. But a lot of the people, when I'm thinking about who I'm illustrating for whatever reason, end up in a younger category. And I fear losing touch. And I think people go about staying in touch in different ways. And so for me, what I'm working through right now is trying to age gracefully, the way just not worrying about trying to be young or old or age or whatever, just being who I am, keeping calm and carrying on, or however you want to put it. And yeah, so that's kind of what's going on with me right now in the background. And and I hope that's somehow connected to illustration. I think ultimately it's just connected to this sense that as we're working in an industry and in a culture that's so fixated on youth and so youth oriented, we do get older and we do have to find our place in that. And so what am I doing? What am I going to do about it? I'm going to keep working. I'm going to just keep doing what I love. What else can I do? I'm going to keep illustrating and keep searching for my passion. I think one of the things that I'm working on getting back is my sense of purpose. Why am I an illustrator? Why am I doing this? These are questions that I'm actually thankful that I'm not content right now, that I am anxious, because it's forcing me again to ask the question, why am I doing this? What can I do with it? Who am I helping beyond myself? And reconnecting with that spark, or even a new spark, a new reason to do what I'm doing. And I am looking forward to the summer, connecting with other fellow illustrators at Icon, and just maybe having some good conversations around the meaning of what we're doing and the purpose we feel. Everyone finds, I can see that some people have a strong sense of purpose in their work, especially if it's political. I'm not a very political illustrator. I try and keep my opinions out of my work and let it be more expressive of something more subtle. And so what am I trying to do with my work? I don't know. Today, as I was thinking about that a little bit, as I was kind of thinking about, why am I doing this? I was on my bike this morning, just riding around on some country roads, and just as I was thinking about this, probably three different species of gorgeous birds flew by me. First was something I don't even know, but it had sort of like reddish feathers, and I'd never really seen it before. Anyway, it was beautiful. And then a goldfinch flew by me, and I was like, "What a beautiful bird! I don't see a lot of goldfinches." And then another bird, I don't know what kind, but it was pretty too. And I just thought about how the beauty of these birds didn't have a purpose, but it made me happy. It uplifted me, it inspired me, it made me think of higher things. It made me think of what is beauty, and even things that are a little bit more in the theological realm. And I realized I love beauty. I love making things visual that are interesting and aesthetically pleasing. I love color. I love form and shape. And ultimately, that's always been what I love about illustration and design and art. And if I can keep making things that are beautiful and interesting and inspiring, and other people get that same feeling of inspiration from it, isn't that reason enough? Isn't it enough that the birds are beautiful? I don't need to even know what they're called. It'd be good if I did, because then I would, I don't know, the more you know about something beautiful, it only seems to get more beautiful, because then there's layers and layers. I think about space. I'm totally going on tangents today. I am getting old. Anyway, I'll talk about space some other time, but yeah, that's kind of where I'm at today. Make it beautiful. And the other thing I'm really working hard on is putting the customer first again, my clients first again. I had lost touch with that this year. You can hear more of my thoughts about that one in the previous episode. I think it was episode 18. But yeah, that's where I'm at right now. I just wanted to share something with you guys, and I kind of feel like I worked something out right now. So anyway, let's go let's go into the questions, and I'm gonna see how many of these I can plow through. So in a few of my episodes, I've talked a bit about style, choosing a style, working toward a style. And I think this is an evergreen topic, something that people are always interested in. And so I have a question from someone on Instagram. Her name's Josephine. She asked me this: do you ever get bored with the style you have chosen? I feel kind of the problem is that when I choose a style that I love, I get so bored after a few pieces, and then I go on experimenting again. Well, good. If you get bored, then go on and experiment more. It means that you haven't really found the style that you feel totally encapsulates everything that you want to express in your work. So in my own work, there is sort of an undercurrent or a common thread. I think you can look through my body of work and kind of see that it's, by me. But my work is also, my style is very varied and diverse compared to people like Olimpia Zagnoli, who has a very defined button-down style. And I've often said I am jealous of people like Olimpia who have, they just seem so decisive and confident. I love that confidence. And I'm so jealous that they've been able to do so much with such a minimal toolkit of form and color. But for me, I kind of get what Josephine is saying. Like, I'm prone to I'm not satisfied just to use one visual language for all my illustrations. I find that there's so many different things to explore, and that's just the kind of illustrator I am. Some illustrators are just much more about using this very limited, constrained repertoire of tools or toolkit to express different ideas. And that would be Magoz. Olimpia Zagnoli, even Andy J. Miller, his style is always the same kind of dreamy sort of montage style, and that's just what he rolls with, and I think that's great. But I think it's also okay for an illustrator to have lots of different styles. Melinda Beck, for instance, all of her work is super strong. She's an award-winning illustrator, but she has 2, 3, or 4 different kind of categories of styles, and she even divides her website based on those styles last time I checked. And so she'll have something more silhouette-y or something more ink, like kind of like pen and ink. And then she'll have stuff that's more graphic and bold and vectory. And so it's okay to be an illustrator with different styles. Kyle T. Webster, who's an amazing artist, illustrator, brush maker. You can, his work is, he's able to make all these amazing brushes in that mimic so many different mediums because he's always trying different mediums. He knows how to paint, he knows how to draw, he knows how to illustrate and vector and all these things. So I think it's okay to have different styles and to feel that boredom. You just kind of want to find ultimately what is the common thread in all your work. So for me, my common thread is a sense of joviality and color and good humor. So those are the kinds of things that I like to throw into my work. And I've grown accustomed and okay with having some variation and variety in my style. This next question comes from Fletch on Instagram. He says, you mentioned during your blog post about 10 ways to develop a drawing style by studying artists you admire. I wanted to know how you actually studied them. Like, did you do certain exercises, or did you just take elements like their color palette and pick it apart? When I'm trying to learn from artists I admire, I pretty much just try to copy what they've done as practice, but I'm not sure that's the most effective way to learn. So great question, Fletch. And so here's what I mean by studying artists you admire. I don't mean opening a book by your favorite illustrator and copying their work. Maybe for you, that's part of what it means to study, and that's okay. But what I mean is study that illustrator, get their biography. And I always will turn to my favorite illustrator and designer, Paul Rand. I love his work, and I have emulated his work. And especially early on, I gravitated toward his collage aesthetic and cutouts and handwriting and stuff like that. And I still very much use that in my illustration today. But I didn't just stop at emulating him, and I certainly never would have personally gotten any joy out of just copying what he did. I've never liked just taking someone else's art and reproducing it. And what I like to do is kind of reverse engineer how they would make that image and then try and make my own image like that. So to each his own. If some people actually do really like making imitations, and I think that's another great way to learn. It's just not how I learn. But Paul Rand, luckily enough, my favorite illustrator, there's tons written on him. He has a lot of fans and a lot of people writing about him, and there's entire giant books of his work. And so that's what I mean. Go deeper, find out what made that artist tick. Find out what other kinds of work they did. The point here, behind every illustration that you admire is an illustrator. And behind the illustrator is a whole story. And if you can find that story in their body of work and in who they were, where they lived, what their studio looked like, how many, did they have kids? Another artist I admire is Ed Emberly, children's book illustrator. And so I have a book on his book, and just an anthology of his work, and it talks about where he lived in New England, and that he lived in this old, like 200 or 300-year-old house, and he loved children. So you really get a sense of like, okay, this guy, his illustrations, his stories, his books are so kid oriented and playful. And then you find out that he really was a family man and just almost was a kid at heart. And so you can start to see, okay, this is what goes in, this is the energy that goes into this kind of art. So this is what I'm saying, Fletch, is learn from artists you admire, not by copying them, but by studying their lives and read about what they did. Where did they go to art school? What decisions did they make? How can what you learn about their stories teach you in your own? So thanks, Fletch, for your question. Okay, I have another question, and this one comes from Benjamin. And he says, I know you do a lot of illustration work that gets licensed for different applications, and I'm wondering how you charge for these projects. And he has an example here. I have a possible job to illustrate a pocket square for a menswear magazine, and I'm wondering if I should charge a royalty fee as well as a flat fee for the artwork. If you have any advice, I'd be very grateful. So I think what Benjamin is saying is that they want him to actually literally illustrate a pocket square as an editorial magazine, like for an editorial magazine. It's an editorial illustration. And if it's editorial illustration, you don't charge royalties, you pay a flat fee. Usually the magazine requesting or commissioning the artwork will say, we want you to create a spot illustration or a full page or a cover, and we will pay you this amount for it. And so you at that point can either choose to accept that or request more than what they're offering and negotiate from there. So no royalties for editorial work. Royalties come into play when you are making products that will be for sale that will profit the commissioning client, the client who's asking you to do the work. So let's just say a greeting card company wants you to design a set of greeting cards. They're going to take the artwork that you made and create a product from that will make them money, perhaps indefinitely, for years to come. And if you can get a royalty deal out of that, that would be the ideal situation, because that means as long as that product is being sold with your artwork, you're going to make money. So royalties can be 5%, 10%, sometimes more. And that could be on the wholesale price usually. That means, so like if a card shop buys greeting cards from a greeting card company for a wholesale price of $2.50, but sells them to the customer at $5, you make the 5% on the $2.50. That makes sense? So anyway, little detail there, but yeah, royalties for products. So if you make prints, posters, if you work with I've worked with smaller retail shops on collaborative products where I create the designs and they turn them into products. And I've always tried to make sure that I get royalties out of all the products I sell. I like to avoid any scenario where I sell my artwork for a flat fee, but then someone else gets to make money indefinitely off of that artwork. Of course, some artwork, some jobs will just pay me a little more, in which case I'm happy to just sign away the work and they sell it, and I don't get to have royalties, but at least I got to make the thing, and I got paid decently. So it's not my ideal scenario, but I'll accept it if no royalties are going to be offered. Thanks, Benjamin, for your question. I think I have time for one more, and this is going to be from Keeks. And Keeks asks, I noticed that you use a company called Imprint to upload your prints for people to purchase from. I'm assuming you chose this route because of the convenience, but can you explain your decision process and why you chose that service over others? Did you try printing it yourself in the beginning? So thanks, Keeks, for your question. So I choose Imprint because I think I heard about it through a different illustrator. I was looking through her prints and she happened to be using Imprint. So I'm like, oh, okay, this looks easy. Let me sign up. So I signed up for Imprint, and I have posted prints there for sale, and it is, yes, largely out of convenience that I use them. I have ordered prints from them, and the quality of the printing is very good. And this is not a paid promotion, so I'm just saying, I think I'm looking at one of the prints that I've made and printed through them, and very nice quality, and it's actually quite affordable, and it's just an easy way to get your prints to someone when they want to see your work in print. And kind of a side story, and I know I'm not alone in this, but I'll often I always post my work on Instagram, and people often will say, "Oh, I would love that as a print." And so I'm like, okay, I put it up on, it's actually super easy. I just, upload the file to Imprint, and then boom, it's a print for sale. And then I tell that person, great, it's on Imprint for sale. You can order it in any size you want. Thank you so much. And you know what has happened almost 100% of the time? I hear nothing, just crickets. Why did they say they wanted a print? I don't know. Why did I take the time to go and even upload it as a print? I haven't sold very many prints through Imprint, to be honest. I've probably sold less than $100 worth of prints on Imprint. And it's not Imprint's fault. Maybe I don't make stuff that people want to put on their walls. I don't know. But certainly the people who said that they wanted to put it on a print, that they would buy a print of that, they were talking out of their armpits or something. So anyway, all this to say, if you tell someone that you want a print of their work, and they actually make that print available, buy the print. Or just don't say it. Just say you love the print. You don't have to say you want to buy it as a way of expressing that you like it. Just say you like it. Anyway, I digress. All right, guys. That's a few questions for today, and I think that's enough. Thank you so much for your questions, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I love hearing your questions, reading them, and answering them here. And if you guys have new questions, or if you're new here and you have a question, join in, leave it in the comments. That's the best way for me to find them. If you guys find this video helpful, please give it a like. And if you're enjoying all these videos, please subscribe. I'm still aiming for that 1,000 subscriber mark by the end of the year. And we're well on our way. We're at 600 subscribers or thereabouts. And one way you can really help me and support this vidcast and encourage me to keep making new content is to tell your friends and share these videos. Let other people know that it exists. And I'm also always interested in hearing your thoughts on how these videos are helping you, or how you wish it might turn out. Like how can I improve this vidcast? What would you like to see in future episodes? What can I be doing better? All that kind of feedback is super valuable to me. I love feedback, positive or critical. Bring it. Anyway, yeah. Hope you guys have a great rest of your week. And until next time, keep making great work and asking great questions. I'll see you later.